Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the Reserve Bank of India has played a pivotal role in transforming the nation's economy as it turns 90. Lays stress on focusing on growth for the next 10 years. India's GST revenue for March sees the second highest collection ever at $21.45 billion, recording an 11.5% growth year on year. Turkiye sees historic opposition win in local elections. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan calls it a turning point. Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu solidifies his position as Erdogan's main rival. And US officials are meeting their Israeli counterparts virtually to discuss the Biden administration's alternative proposals to Israel's moves in Rafah. First up, let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. Well, the hustle and bustle of campaigning is gaining momentum with each passing day as India gears up for the great Indian elections of 2024, beginning on the 19th of this month. A total of 7 phases are to be held, and they'll be held first up, they will be culminating on the 1st of June, and then counting of the votes will take place on the 4th. The next report tells us more.
It was a day of hectic political developments with the hustle and bustle of campaigning on at full swing for the 7-phase Lok Sabha polls. In the midst of all this, remarks made by Congress leader Rahul Gandhi at the Indy Alliance rally held in Ramlila Maidan in New Delhi on Sunday have sparked off a controversy. A BJP delegation led by BJP leader and India's Minister Hardeep Singh Puri met the Election Commission and called for strict action against Rahul Gandhi. This led to a war of words between the BJP and the Congress.
इतना low level political discourse, एक recognized political party अपने official handle से ऐसी बात करे या उनके जो नेता हैं वो ऐसे आरोप लगाए जो बिल्कुल without basis हैं। हमने इलेक्शन कमीशन के सामने ये बात रखी और हमने उनसे कहा कि ये नोटिस वाली बात नहीं है, इस पे तो अब सख्त कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
देखिए, उन्हें बताना चाहिए कि राहुल गांधी ने प्रधानमंत्री के बारे में कौन सा ऐसा लफ्ज बोला है जो काबिल एतराज़ है। जब तक वो ये नहीं बताएंगे, ये कह देना कि उन्होंने बोला है, तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग जो कांग्रेस के नेताओं के खिलाफ लगातार उल्टे सीधे बयानात देते हैं।
The BJP held the first meeting of its manifesto committee at the central BJP office. Suggestions were given on the roadmap for 2047 with regard to the role of the party and the government. On the other hand, the Central Election Committee of India's Congress Party held its meeting in national capital to discuss issues related to India's parliamentary elections. Former AAP MP from Punjab's Patiala, Dharamveer Gandhi, joined the Congress in the presence of senior party leaders. Derogatory remarks by political leaders is something which India's premier poll body, the Election Commission, is not taking lightly. In fact, the EC strongly reprimanded Congress leader Supriya Srinath and BJP leader Dilip Ghosh for their derogatory remarks. Meanwhile, moving to the southern Indian state of Karnataka, India's Home Minister Amit Shah will launch a Grand Star campaign of the BJP in Karnataka on Tuesday. He will address a public rally at Bengaluru Palace Ground and later a roadshow at Chennapatna. The Congress is not far behind as far as campaigning in Karnataka is concerned. The Karnataka Congress President and Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar campaigned for Soumya Reddy, the party's candidate from Bengaluru South Lok Sabha seat. Moving to neighbouring Kerala, India's Minister of State for External Affairs and the NDA candidate B. Muralidharan said the facade of transparency as claimed by CPM has crumbled down.
The news reports that Enforcement Directorate has informed the Election Commission of the secret accounts maintained by CPM. It exposes the real face of CPM.
In neighbouring Tamil Nadu, State BJP President and party's Coimbatore candidate K. Annamalai held a roadshow in his seat. The coming days will see campaigning heating up as polling for the first phase Lok Sabha polls begin on 19th of this month. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, more than 1 million advance applications from the age groups of 17 and above have been received by the Election Commission of India so that these people can vote in the 2024 Indian general elections. Participation of youth has seen a rise over the years. Here's a report.
इतना कुछ किस लिए?
Image building. What else?
पर वोट नहीं डाला आपने.
Vote. क्या फायदा?
नेशन बिल्डिंग. और हाँ, इसमें इतना टाइम भी नहीं लगता.
ख्याल बदलेगा, तभी तो देश बदलेगा.
Renowned actor Rajkumar Rao attempting to encourage young voters to perform the most important duty of a democratic nation, casting the vote in elections. Himself a young actor, Rajkumar took over as national icon for voter awareness and education for the Election Commission of India in October 2023. The video is part of Election Commission of India's campaign Mera Pehla Vote Desh Ke Liye, that is, my first vote for the nation.
Calling upon the 200 million voters in the age group of 18 to 29 years to vote and be part of the largest democratic exercise.
In April 2023, India surpassed China to become the most populous nation in the world. And this also brings into focus the immense demographic dividend that India is all set to reap. An overwhelming majority of India's 1.4 billion plus population is below 35 years of age. The same youthful energy will also reflect in this 2024 general polls too.
India has witnessed an increase of 6% in registered voters as compared to 2019, and the share of young voters can't be overlooked. Over 20 million young electors spanning the age groups between 18 to 19 years and 20 to 29 years have been added to the electoral rolls. As per ECI data, electors under the age group of 18 to 19 years are 18.5 million. The corresponding figure in 2019 was 15 million. Voters under the age groups of 20 to 29 years are 197.4 million.
To facilitate youth enrollment at the constituency level, Special Assistant Electoral Registration Officers or AEROs were appointed for the registrations. Youth were enrolled directly from educational institutions, fostering greater civic engagement among the younger populace. The surge in numbers is also reflected in the Indian political matrix. Political parties in India have started focusing more on issues relevant to the youth, such as education, employment, and technology. The emergence of young leaders in politics has also inspired other young people to engage in the political process. When youth see themselves represented in political leadership positions, they are more likely to believe that their voices matter and that they can make a difference through electoral participation. While there has been progress in increasing youth participation in elections in India, continued efforts from political parties, civil society organizations, educational institutions, and the government are essential to sustain and enhance youth engagement in the democratic process. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's defense exports have touched a record $2.63 billion in the financial year 2023-24 and registered a growth of 32.5% over the last fiscal. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh announced this on social media platform X, and I quote, "Indian defence exports have scaled up to unprecedented heights and crossed 21,000 crore Indian rupees, mark for the first time in history for independent India. India's defence exports have reached to the level of 21,081 crore Indian rupees in the financial year 23-24, which is a spectacular growth of 32.5% over the previous fiscal. Now, the recent figures indicate that defence exports have grown by 31 times in the last 10 years as compared to financial year 2013-14. Defence, private and public sector undertakings have made tremendous efforts in achieving the highest ever defence exports. This remarkable growth has been achieved due to the government's policy reforms and ease of doing business initiatives. This growth is a reflection of global acceptability of Indian defence products and technologies. The Indian Air Force's Gagan Shakti drills have begun on Monday. The drills aim to test coordination, deployment and employment of air power in a short and intense battle scenario. The Indian Air Force will be using its entire war-fighting machinery to validate its concept of operations and war-waging capabilities. The focus of the exercise is to check the viability of operational plans. Gagan Shakti 2024 will see the Air Force carry out drills in coordination with the Army and the Navy. All fighter aircraft, newly inducted assets, transport aircraft, radars, air defense systems will be used in a network-centric environment. The Commander-in-Chief of the Thai Navy, Admiral Adung Pamlam, is visiting India for the talks with Indian Navy Chief Admiral R. Harikumar on maritime cooperation between the two nations. He was accorded a ceremonial tri-service guard and of honor in New Delhi. He also paid homage to the fallen heroes at the National War Memorial. There's good news on the economic front. India's gross goods and services tax revenue, that's GST revenue, for March 2024 witnessed the second highest collection ever at over $22 billion with an 11.5% year-on-year growth. The surge was driven by a significant rise in GST collections from domestic transactions at 17.6%. GST revenue net of refunds for March 2024 is over $20 billion, which is a growth of 18.4% over the same period last year. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal sent to Tihar Central Jail for the next 14 days after 10 days of ED custody. IMF officials say the next review of Egypt's loan program should be completed by June end. And the Islamabad High Court suspends 14-year sentences of former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife in the Tosha Khana graft case.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
As the cycle of accountability returns, the time has come when the biggest democracy chooses to write another chapter in its glorious history. Development, justice, regionalism, a big political canvas. Everything will be put to test in this mega battle for glory. DD India dissects what makes elections 2024 the battle royale in Indian politics. Data and analysis free from bias to help you understand why India matters. Great Indian Election on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. The problems don't seem to end for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, and he'll have to spend some more days in Delhi's Tihar Central Jail. In fact, the court has sent him to judicial custody for the next 14 days. The next report tells us more.
No relief for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in the liquor scam. He has been sent to judicial custody for 15 days. Presently, he has been sent to Tihar Jail. Enforcement Directorate told the court that Chief Minister did not cooperate during questioning and did not disclose password for digital device. The investigating agency also said that for the first time CM Kejriwal has named of his two ministers, Saurabh Bharadwaj and Atishi. During probe, he revealed that Vijay Nair reported to Atishi and Saurabh Bharadwaj and not to him. During the hearing, Chief Minister Kejriwal, Minister Atishi and Minister Saurabh Bharadwaj were present in the court. War of words between BJP and AAP has come to the fore. On the one hand, BJP slammed Arvind Kejriwal saying that all the corrupt have come together. On the other hand, AAP accused the BJP of misusing PMLA law and other agencies.
स्वघोषित कट्टर ईमानदार दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री श्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के समर्थन में भ्रष्टाचार के पुराने आरोपियों और पुराने गुनाहों में आबद्ध रहे तमाम राजनीतिक दलों ने उनका समर्थन किया था। न्यायालय ने जो निर्णय सुनाया है वो तथ्यात्मक आधार पर है। तथ्यात्मक आधार पर दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री श्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को 15 दिन की न्यायिक हिरासत में भेजा गया है।
देखिए, आपको साफ देखने को मिल रहा है कि कैसे पीएमएलए कानून का हमारे देश में दुरुपयोग कर रही है भाजपा, कैसे अपनी एजेंसीज का दुरुपयोग कर रही है भाजपा। तो 2 साल से हमारे खिलाफ एक चवन्नी की रिकवरी नहीं कर पाई इन्फोर्समेंट डायरेक्टोरेट, इतने उन्होंने छापे मार लिए।
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal was arrested by ED on 21st March and he was sent on ED custody for the first time till 28th March. Later on, the central agency once again sought custody and court agreed and extended ED custody till 1st April. Now court has sent Kejriwal to 15 days judicial custody. Manish Sisodia, Sanjay Singh and BRS leader K. Kavita are already in Tihar jail for being accused and charged in this case. With bureau inputs, Mukesh Shukla's report, DD India.
Of this particular case, we're joined by our guest Pinky Anand, Senior Supreme Court Advocate and former Additional Solicitor General as well. Good evening to you. Ms. Anand, Arvind Kejriwal has been sent behind bars for the next 14 days. His legal team says this means they can now seek bail from the court as the ED's custody is over. Is that how this works?
Ultimately, there are two questions here. One is whether he can and should have been sent to judicial remand, and second is whether he can seek for bail. Of course, he can seek for bail, but as you do know, the position of law is rather simple, that when investigation is going on, bail is most likely not to be granted, aside from the factum that it is a grievous offence. It's a financial scam of a loss of more than 45 crores, of money laundering, of other offences which are predicate offences which the CBI has charged Mr. Kejriwal for. So in these circumstances, the fact of non-cooperation and others may militate well against Mr. Kejriwal as much as the fact that he's been sent on judicial remand for 14 days.
Right. And this insistence that Arvind Kejriwal's defense team again has that all these, it's been a long period that the probe has been going on and none of the money has been traced. So essentially they're saying that there is no case. Is this a stage to go into these kind of merits or demerits of the case, or this will come at a later stage? And it seems that the Aam Aadmi Party at this stage might be grasping at straws.
It does seem to be. I mean, the question is not whether recovery has been made. Obviously, recovery has not been made, and that is one of the reasons why Mr. Kejriwal has been sent to judicial remand, and that period has not got over. The question is, you do have to have the process in place. There is complete evasion of the questions asked. Digital evidence, etc., is not forthcoming. The method of tracking from password recovery, etc., has not been made available. There have been evasive answers. There have been contradictions. Every factum has been denied, which has been proved by some of the witnesses. For example, Vijay Nair's statement. Now, you do have Vijay Nair's statement, which in terms indicts the position. But Mr. Kejriwal says he doesn't report to him and he reports to other people, which is obviously belied by the facts. Vijay Nair is the media head. He's the head of media and broadcasting. And he, in fact, apparently lives in the camp office of the Aam Aadmi Party. And therefore, the connectivity between Mr. Vijay Nair and Mr. Kejriwal can hardly be denied, but it has been denied by him. And there has been testimony of so many witnesses which have actually stated against Mr. Kejriwal. And the fact of this entire money laundering process, which has gone on during the Goa elections, is something which has come forth. And I think in these circumstances, but for investigating and ensuring that ultimately the public money is recovered and brought back. I mean, what is this? You actually have a policy in place because there is a possibility of irregularities or to favor some vested parties. You do that without appropriate approval. The writing appears to be on the wall.
And this charge that is being made is that the arrest has just been carried out to disrupt election campaigning. The general elections are virtually upon us now. The first phase starts on the 19th of April. How much of it really does hold water, keeping in mind that the probe had been going on for quite some time, and it was after the 9th summon that was given to the Delhi Chief Minister, which was not responded to in the manner that it should have, that this action against him of arrest was carried out?
See, ultimately, arrest is after what? You yourself said it. You have 9 summons sent to him to come and participate in the investigation. He doesn't respond to them, give evasive responses. Obviously, the next possible outcome is only what it has been, arrest. The factum of elections, of course, around the corner is there. But any crime has nothing to do with elections. So when crime happens, the normal course of law has to take place. This is not some kind of contract that is happening or a matter of policy that has to be stayed off. In terms of sheer law, there is no question of any abdication of the process being stopped or otherwise. Whatever process is going on is post the attempt to try to have him appear 9 times over, and yet he chooses not to appear, gives all sorts of different reasons. And obviously then the next logical step is arrest, which would happen for any person, leave aside for Mr. Kejriwal.
And what can we expect in terms of how the case should proceed or will proceed from here?
Well, ultimately right now the investigation is going on, and obviously if the investigation doesn't yield any results, you will find the matter going to its logical conclusion. You'll find adverse inferences happening. You will find testimonies of witnesses that are there, and ultimately the necessary trial procedure which will happen. The question of whether Mr. Kejriwal will get bail in these circumstances. Look at the features that have come today in today's order. The fact that he's an influential person, obviously he is. There would be tampering with witnesses. Well, there is always a distinct possibility. And these are some of the factors which prevail as far as the law of the land is concerned. Heinous offences, economic offences, scams which come forth to light, and you have added features on the factum that you might influence a trial. So obviously the outcome is rather clear in front of us. It doesn't seem that as if this is going to end in any kind of hurry, and there shouldn't be. The trial will take its process that it should. Of course, in the meantime, investigations are going on. If something is unearthed, the logical corollaries will follow.
Naturally, the course of justice will take its own time, and it is, of course, a case which has been talked about a lot in the public domain as well. So we'll have to say what really emerges in court. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Pinky Anand. Now, Ukraine on Monday stated that Russia has used 5 hypersonic Zircon missiles to attack its capital Kyiv since the beginning of 2024. Kyiv's military administration claims Russia has launched 180 missiles and drones towards the Ukrainian capital in the first 3 months of the year. Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed in his address on the 29th of February that Russia had used Zircon missiles, which is a part of a new generation of unrivaled arms systems. There was no immediate response from Moscow this time around. Now, in the latest from Russia's concert hall massacre, sources say Iran tipped off Russia about the possibility of a major terrorist attack near Moscow last month. Tehran had reportedly shared information with Moscow about a possible big terror attack inside Russia, and that particular information was acquired during an interrogation of those arrested in connection with Iran's twin bombings. However, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov on Monday denied any Iranian warnings were provided to Moscow. Over in the U.S., Governor Wes Moore of the state of Maryland has urged Republican lawmakers to work with Democrats to approve the U.S. government's funding needed for rebuilding the collapsed bridge in Baltimore and to get the port economy back on its feet. The Biden government released $60 million in initial emergency aid on the 28th of March to assist in cleaning up debris and reopening the port. U.S. government officials have told Maryland lawmakers that the final cost of rebuilding the bridge could soar up to at least $2 billion. Meanwhile, efforts are on to clean up thousands of tons of steel debris from the collapsed bridge in Baltimore. Now, let's talk about the Asia Pacific as well. Taiwan's Navy chief is expected to visit the United States this week amidst China issuing threats to the island. Taiwan's Navy chief Tang Hua is expected to attend a military ceremony and discuss how to boost bilateral naval cooperation with the U.S. Last week, a U.S. lawmaker visited Taiwan and reiterated the importance of a continued strategic cooperation between the island nation as well as the United States. The United States is Taiwan's most important arms supplier and international supporter, despite the absence of formal diplomatic ties. South Koreans will vote on the 10th of April in a parliamentary election to elect a 300-member National Assembly. Parliamentary and presidential elections are held separately in South Korea. President Yoon Suk-yeol's Conservative People Power Party faces an uphill battle to win back a majority now held by the opposition, a gaping margin of defeat and a looming existential crisis among the ruling party's leadership. In relief for jail, former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife, Islamabad High Court on Monday granted him an appeal of his conviction for graft and suspended his 14-year jail sentence. Just a week ahead of the 8th of February elections, Imran Khan and his wife Bushra were both handed a 14-year sentence on charges of unlawfully selling state gifts. Khan remains in jail after multiple other sentences were imposed on the ex-cricketer star ahead of the national polls, which also disqualified him from holding any public office for 10 years. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. In the picturesque northern town of Duhok, Iraqis came together to celebrate the ancient Assyrian New Year known as Akitu on Monday. Clad in traditional attire and surrounded by the majestic mountains of the region, participants marched and danced, embracing the rich cultural heritage of their ancestors. Visitors in Japan's Yamaguchi city floated paper dolls down the Ichinosaka River, wishing for good health during an annual event in the city. The dolls, made of traditional Tokuji washi paper, are retrieved at the lower part of the river and burnt in a bonfire at a local shrine. Hungarians observed Easter with a centuries-old tradition of dousing women with buckets of ice-cold water. Men and women dressed up in folk costumes and took part in the tradition that was widely practiced across Central and Eastern Europe for centuries. And still to come on the India News Hour. India's central bank, the RBI, has completed 90 years. We'll talk about its role in the past, present and future in boosting the nation's economy. India's top court refuses to stay a lower court order allowing prayers in a cellar of the Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi. And India's Project Tiger, which was started on the 1st of April 1973, has met with a lot of success. We'll tell you about it.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today addressed the commemorative ceremony of RBI at 90 in Mumbai, which marks 90 years of the Reserve Bank of India. India's central bank started its operations on the 1st of April in 1935 and is observing its 90th year of inception today. Take a look at how the Prime Minister praised the RBI for its work so far and also laid out what it needs to do in the future.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the RBI on Monday for completing 90 years since its inception. Terming it a historic landmark, the Prime Minister underlined that the RBI has witnessed both the pre- and post-independence eras and it has created an identity for itself around the world based on its professionalism and commitment.
देश के बैंकिंग सेक्टर में उसके स्ट्रक्चर में क्या बदलाव जरूरी है, इस पर हमें सोचना होगा. इसमें हमें नए फाइनेंसिंग, ऑपरेटिंग एंड बिजनेस मॉडल्स की आवश्यकता हो सकती है. ग्लोबल चैंपियंस की क्रेडिट जरूरतों से लेकर रेहड़ी पटरी वालों तक की जरूरत को, कटिंग एज सेक्टर से लेकर ट्रेडिशनल सेक्टर्स तक की जरूरतों को हम पूरा कर सकें, ये विकसित भारत के लिए बहुत जरूरी है. विकसित भारत के बैंकिंग विजन के इस पूरे अध्ययन के लिए रिजर्व बैंक बहुत उपयुक्त संस्था है.
Stressing the diverse banking needs of a large country like India, Prime Minister Modi underlined the need to improve ease of doing banking and providing tailor-made services. He underscored the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning in banking. The Prime Minister also mentioned inflation controlling measures like giving the right of inflation targeting to the RBI and praising the performance of the Monetary Policy Committee in this regard.
इतनी बड़ी जनसंख्या की बैंकिंग नीड्स भी अलग अलग हो सकती है. कई लोग फिजिकल ब्रांच मॉडल को पसंद करते हैं, कई लोगों को डिजिटल डिलीवरी पसंद होती है. देश को ऐसी नीतियां बनाने की जरूरत है जिससे ईज ऑफ डूइंग बैंकिंग बेहतर हो और सभी को उनकी जरूरत के अनुसार क्रेडिट एक्सेस मिल सके.
Prime Minister Modi underlined the importance of a strong banking industry for providing required funding to the projects of the nation. The event also saw the Prime Minister release a commemorative coin to mark 90 years of RBI. Addressing the gathering, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said India's capacity to manage and also to take care of external imbalance and uncertainties significantly improved over the years purely because of the professional management of the RBI.
Bank of International Settlements, BIS, has mentioned significant role played by RBI in a very unconventional point. RBI's role in anchoring inflation expectations using communication policy is significant, is what the BIS has said.
The occasion also saw RBI Governor Shaktikant Das saying the Reserve Bank remains focused on ensuring a stable and strong financial system that would act as a bedrock for the nation.
Reserve Bank's evolution as an institution has been closely intertwined with the development of the Indian economy. From being a central bank primarily concerned with allocation of scarce resources during the planning period, the Reserve Bank has transitioned into being an enabler for the market economy. We are a full-service central bank with our functions spanning multiple dimensions.
Over the decades, the RBI's role has expanded to cover monetary management, regulation and supervision of the financial system, management of foreign exchange, currency issuance, regulation and supervision of online payment and settlement systems, and developmental roles. The last decade itself saw the central bank take key steps to rein in inflation in order to stabilize and boost the economy. With bureau inputs, Shama Mishra's report, DD India, Mumbai.
Let's talk about the RBI's journey and the way ahead as well. We're joined by Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, senior economic journalist. Good evening to you, Shubhamoy. What do you make of how the RBI has conducted itself, going through an evolutionary addition to its role through the decades, and especially the last decade as well, tackling a range of problems at the same time and encountering some that were not anticipated at all?
Dear Gautam, in fact, RBI can obviously take credit on the 90th birthday of the central bank that it has steered India through several major crises in more than one decade, especially the last one. I mean, I'm especially looking at COVID, which really tested central banks across the globe about how they can handle their economy. And RBI really did well. It lowered the interest rate drastically, but it did not flood the market with currency. So as a result, inflation remained within control, but the economy looking for stability got founded because of the very low interest rates that the production process, as soon as normal conditions returned, was able to come into play. And that has been a very big achievement of the RBI compared to many central banks. In fact, I would say that there has been probably, so far, I would say that has been RBI's finest moment. There have been other moments, but this was probably a fight which had no precedent. And RBI did it wonderfully. And kudos goes to Mr. Das and his team. Yeah.
And in terms of the way ahead, the Prime Minister, of course, had his own pointers, but the RBI too has identified, of course, it will keep that inflation level within range, but at the same time, to ensure that the economy keeps chugging along at the high growth rate that it has, India remains the largest, the fastest growing large economy to date. How will it keep it going?
That's the point. In fact, now we are moving towards an economy which, from being the fifth largest to gradually will become the third largest. And in that, RBI, first of all, is very clear that it wants to keep inflation anchored. Inflation not in a range of 2 to 6%, but steadily at 4%. And RBI has been going after it very strongly. In fact, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting is just due to happen after this week itself. And all fund houses, all banks, all analysts are fairly clear that RBI will not be cutting rates, and that RBI will be not even be moving into what is called the neutral territory. So that means that the RBI is essentially looking that there is no slip up in terms of the inflation targeting. Yet there is enough incentive for companies to borrow more, and as we can see from the data on credit, that has actually started paying dividends, that there is much more credit now being handed out and not much more interest in taking out credit from the corporate sector. The banks have actually come out very well, and the twin balance sheet problem, which was India's big problem for a long time, that both the corporate sector balance sheet was weak and the bank's balance sheet was weak, that has got cleaned up. Today, the banks are in a very steady state. So I think that's the framework on which RBI would want to push forward, that there shouldn't be any snafu. Remember, the world's idea of money is also changing. We are getting digital currency. We are getting new ideas of how currencies should be. And within that, it's a very fascinating world in which we are working in. Especially AI is going to have a huge impact on banking as we know it in the next few years.
Yes. In fact, that's what I was going to ask you about as well, that we've seen the RBI evolve and have more and more under its domain, especially where online transactions are concerned, be they in terms of UPI or other modes of online or neo banking, where even investments are concerned. Do you feel that RBI might be moving into other uncharted territories as well in the coming years?
That's right, Gautam. In fact, it has already moved into uncharted territories. And one of the things that RBI has been doing, and which is very good, is that RBI has been willing to wield the stick. So companies which have got into trouble because RBI has said that they are not following due diligence, instead of the markets telling RBI that, the companies are in trouble. That's a very big change. The regulator is actually deciding that here's a bank, here is a financial company in the fintech sector largely, or an NBFC, which is not working as per the regulatory norms of the RBI. So therefore, it's hauling it up, and hauling it up very strongly. And that, I think, is a very important decision and a very important sort of change in mindset, because the current flow of currency across the world, the AI-based and others, is going to be so drastic that it will be necessary for RBI to stay on top of the story. And as the leading emerging market bank, this is going to be a very, very significant area for RBI to trawl. Yeah, Gautam.
And in terms of boosting the rupee's global presence as well, in that endeavor, to what extent has the RBI contributed so far, and what more could it do there?
Absolutely. And that again, yes, that's the right thing that you pointed out. We already have several countries now which have already included rupee as the local currency.
Yeah, the INR, as in the Indian rupee.
INR, exactly. The the United
I just wanted to clarify, because there are other rupees in circulation as well.
But exactly, that's a very good point. The INR has become now the currency that can be used in UAE, and one would expect that in West Asia, this is something that will expand more and more. And once that happens, then the internationalization of the currency will be a very significant thing that RBI has already looking at. So therefore, what does it mean in terms of convertibility? The ability of a foreigner to buy Indian rupee and sell it in a market totally abroad. That is what hard currencies are about. This is something which the RBI will be traversing, and will be traversing very fast, because this is somewhere there's a lot of demand for the Indian rupee to be able to be transacted in more areas other than just within India. Yes,
certainly. So 90 years of tackling so much, but still the RBI continues to have a full platter to take on, and let's wish it all the best in terms of taking on that task. Thanks a lot for joining us and talking about it. Shubhamoy for tonight. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Monday spoke at the South Gujarat Chamber of Commerce Corporate Summit 2024 in the city of Surat, where he addressed business persons and entrepreneurs. Appreciating the strong presence of Gujarat when it comes to business, Dr. Jaishankar said that the people of the state are spread across the world and are globalized. Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud delivered the 28th D.P. Kohli Memorial Lecture on adopting technology to advance criminal justice in New Delhi on Monday. The CJI also presented the President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service to 6 officers of the CBI and Police Medal for Meritorious Service to 29 officers of the Central Investigative Agency. At the event, the Chief Justice of India highlighted the recent enactment of new criminal laws by Parliament.
The new criminal laws recently enacted by Parliament encompass substantive crime, procedure, and evidence. These laws aim at digitizing various aspects of criminal procedure. This is a significant step towards modernizing the justice system. From the initial registration of a first information report to the final delivery of judgment, every stage of a criminal investigation is slated to be recorded digitally under the purview of the proposed legislation. This comprehensive approach ensures a seamless flow of information and is intended to facilitate better coordination and collaboration among stakeholders involved in the investigative and adjudicatory processes.
And the news just coming in, Iran's consulate in the Syrian capital Damascus was flattened on Monday in what Syrian and Iranian media described as an Israeli airstrike. a startling, apparent escalation of conflict in the Middle East. Lebanese security sources told a news agency that a senior commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Mohammad Reza Zahedi, has been killed in the attack. Syrian state television confirmed the consulate building had been attacked. Earlier, Iranian media reported that a building close to the embassy had been hit. An Iran student news agency reported that the target was the consulate and the ambassador's residence. The Israeli army said troops have exited the Al-Shifa hospital area after a 2-week operation during which they killed gunmen and seized weapons and intelligence documents. Meanwhile, the US has said its top officials are meeting their Israeli counterparts virtually to discuss the Biden administration's alternative proposals to Israel's moves in Rafah. More in this report.
After a 2-week operation, Israeli army withdrew from the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. During the operation, the Israeli army killed and detained hundreds of Palestinian terrorists and seized weaponry and intelligence documents.
Moving on to the situation at the Shifa hospital. I believe that the terrorist takeover of Shifa and the subsequent Special Forces operation to clear the hospital of terrorists will be studied by future generations of military strategists at West Point and Sandhurst as the gold standard for urban warfare. The Prime Minister confirmed, and I quote, "Our forces operated there in an exemplary fashion. Shifa has become a main terrorism command center for Hamas. The surprise action by our forces was precise and surgical."
Meanwhile, the Israeli police arrested sister of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh on suspicion of having contact with Hamas operatives and inciting and supporting acts of terrorism in Israel, among other charges, in the Israeli Bedown village of Tel Sheva. Efforts are in full swing for peace talks in ongoing conflict. New Zealand Foreign Minister Winston Peters met with Egyptian counterpart Sameh Shoukry during a visit to Cairo. During the meet, the two leaders discussed the ongoing conflict, where Shoukry reiterated Egypt's rejection to forced displacement or a military operation in Rafah on the border with Egypt.
Welcome you and your delegation.
Meanwhile, Israeli army killed a Hezbollah commander in an airstrike in Lebanon. The commander was identified as Ismail al-Zin, a commander in the anti-tank missile unit of Hezbollah's Radwan forces.
Let's take you across to DD India's Alex Kadir, now live joining us from Tel Aviv. Good evening to you, Alex. Now, how have the Israelis reacted to the latest attack on a port city which has come in from Iraq, and now we're hearing the Israelis are hitting the Iranians in Damascus?
Yeah, well, certainly that targeting of the southern city of Eilat, it's a resort town, it's a tourist destination that also has a naval base, and clearly that shows that some of these forces can hit deep into Israeli territory, although no casualties were reported and very limited damage was reported as well. The breaking news really in the last few moments, though, is that alleged Israeli airstrike, unconfirmed by the Israeli armed forces, that Mohammad Reza Zahedi, who is a commander in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the top military corps in Iran, has been killed in a strike in the Syrian capital Damascus, a strike that hit a building adjacent to the Iranian embassy in Damascus. Now that strike also killed 6 other people in that adjacent building. We understand the Iranian ambassador and his family were not harmed in this strike, and according to the Syrian Organization for Human Rights, which is a UK-based observatory, that strike is confirmed. Now, if this is an Israeli strike, now the Israeli military saying we do not comment on reports in foreign media, but this would be the most senior Iranian commander killed by the Israelis since the start of this war. We know that Iran-backed militias, Hamas, Hezbollah, have been fighting against Israeli forces, particularly when it comes to the north of Israel, the south of Lebanon. Those ongoing conflicts with Hezbollah, Iran-backed militias like Hezbollah have been a real threat for Israel, and so we worried or we thought about a potential escalation, and certainly this strike could be leading us in that direction.
All right. Now, the other concern, of course, is the ceasefire talks didn't really go anywhere. Now, what can we expect from the American bid to provide Israel alternatives to its plans for Rafah?
Well, there's two different talks there. We'll start with the ceasefire talks. They've actually had some movement, not necessarily progress, but movement. We understand that senior Israeli officials at those talks with Egypt and Qatar in Cairo have shown, they say, more flexibility when it comes to the issue of returning civilians to northern Gaza. That's something which they had previously agreed, that 2,000 to 3,000 women and children could return to the north. Hamas said that is simply not enough, and they wanted more civilians to be able to return to northern Gaza. Now that progress is just an opening point by the Israelis. We'll have to wait and see what Hamas's response is, but it was one of the main sticking points to a ceasefire and hostage release deal being reached, so perhaps that could open the door to some forward movement. It could also factor in to that virtual meeting between US officials, including National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Ron Dermer, the Strategic Affairs Minister of Israel, virtual call because the in-person call last week was cancelled by Prime Minister Netanyahu, who one day later privately asked the White House if he could reschedule that meeting with officials. When that was made public, Netanyahu denied asking for another meeting and therefore went for a virtual call instead. You can expect that to be very tense because the United States are very clearly opposed to any operation in Rafah so long as a clear plan for the evacuation of civilians is not presented to them. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying very clearly no amount of American pressure, no amount of international pressure will stop Israel going into Rafah, meaning he is on the collision course with Israel's biggest ally in the United States.
Well, certainly that does seem to be the case, but let's see if something gets worked out. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Alex. Good day. Now, soon after the Israeli military left Al-Shifa hospital, aircraft were seen dropping aid into the Gaza Strip. Several countries have resorted to airdrops to deliver aid to ease the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Israel says it puts no limit on the amount of humanitarian aid entering Gaza and blames problems in its reaching civilians there on UN agencies. In a major setback to Turkiye, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the nation's main opposition party, has secured substantial victories in local elections, maintaining control over crucial cities. The results showcase the Republican People's Party retaining its grip on key urban areas like Istanbul. This has sparked speculation about the country's political future, with many seeing the outcome as a harbinger for the 2028 presidential contest and a potential shift in President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's political influence. IMF officials say the next review of Egypt's loan program should be completed by the end of June, when authorities will be able to draw on a further $820 million after an expanded loan program was agreed last month. IMF's mission chief said further reviews will be completed every 6 months, and those will each unlock disbursements of $1.3 billion. Earlier, Egypt's Prime Minister had said that an initial payment of $820 million would be received this week after the completion of delayed reviews last month. India's Project Tiger was established in response to an alarming decline in the population of tigers. Over the last 50 years, Project Tiger, which was launched on the 1st of April 1973, has achieved much success, making significant strides in tiger conservation. Take a look at this report. We'll bring that comprehensive report to you later in our bulletins, but the Chiang Mai Zoo Aquarium in Thailand reopened its doors to tourists today after more than a year of renovation. The renovation involved upgrading the life support systems of hundreds of fish species, particularly the 30-strong shark population, which is a highlight of the aquarium, ensuring better health care for them. The director of the Zoological Organization of Thailand expressed confidence that the new renovations will attract tourists, especially during the Songkran festival this month. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X as well as Instagram. We'll be back with more news and updates as a break here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.